10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
Falcon 9 is pitching downrange.
As you can see, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from the historic launch pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center, carrying our stack of Starlink satellites and 2 ride shares into orbit. We throttle the engines down in preparation for max Q, or maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is the largest structural load that the vehicle sees during
supersonic.
This is the largest structural load that the vehicle sees during ascent, so slowing the vehicle down helps during that short period. In about a minute, we're going to have 3 events happening back to back. First will be main engine cutoff, or as you'll hear it called out, MECO. This is where all 9 M1D engines shut off and slow the vehicle down in preparation for the second event, stage separation. As the name suggests, this is where the first stage separates from the second stage, with stage 1 starting to make its way back to Earth for landing on our
Started.
While stage 2 continues its journey with the third event, SES-1, or Second Engine Start 1. This is where MVAC will light up and begin to propel the second stage along with the Starlink and 2 rideshare satellites into orbit. So just a few seconds ago, we heard the call out that MVAC chill has begun. That's the same thing as what I described prior to liftoff for the M1D engines. We flow a little bit of that super chilled liquid oxygen into the turbo pump of the MVAC engine.
Max Q.
All right, there we heard the call out that we reached max Q. We flow a little bit of that super chilled liquid oxygen into the turbo pump of the MVAC engine, helping to prepare the prop system for that super cold fluid to flow through. So there we can see that the engine...
Stage separation confirmed.
All right, so on the left-hand side of your screen, we got the first stage, and the second, on the right-hand side, the second stage, and there we heard call out MVAC ignition. We can see that nozzle begin to develop a lovely orange glow as Earth rotates in the background. On the left-hand side, we got first stage deploying the grid fins in preparation for the drone ship landing. And there's our first view inside the payload fairing. There we have visual and call out there that fairing separation has occurred. As a reminder, we're going to be recovering the first stage with our drone ship, utilizing a view for today's recovery attempt. Love that view of MVAC.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
If you're just catching up with us, we had a successful launch of Falcon 9 from Kennedy Space Center's Pad 39A. On the right side of your screen, you're looking at a live view of Falcon 9 Stage 2 as it delivers our Starlink and rideshare payloads to orbit. On the left, Stage 1 is cruising back to our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, in the Atlantic Ocean. Our Starlink satellites are in LEO, or low Earth orbit, at around 550
Both
kilometers.
vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Most satellites are around 36,000 kilometers in altitude at GEO, or geostationary orbit. When the satellites are further from Earth, the round-trip data time between the user and the satellite, it's also known as latency, is much higher, resulting in poor performance for activities like video calls and online gaming.
SECO.
And there we had second engine cutoff 1, or SECO 1. Stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of the Merlin 1D engines will reignite. This helps to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is the landing burn, And this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship. We do this at the last minute to conserve as much fuel as possible.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn is started. And stage 1 entry burn shut down.
There are a couple of
The
events
vehicle continues to
scheduled to
follow
happen in
trajectories.
close proximity here. The stage 1 landing burn will begin and will finish its burn in about 25 seconds. And stage 2 up in space, at which point we'll enter the first coast period.
Stage 1 landing burn is started.
At a start of stage 1.
Turn
As a
guidance.
reminder, we may lose coverage of the vehicle as it attempts to land on the drone ship.
Landing legs have deployed.
Landing leg deployed.
Stage 2 FTS is
On the
saved.
left-hand side of the screen, got a beautiful view of a successful landing. This marks our 84th successful recovery of an orbital-class rocket and the 6th recovery of this particular booster. Now, stage 2 is going to coast in this orbit for the next 45 minutes or so. While that happens, take a look at this animation showcasing where we are in the coast phase. We'll see you back here at T plus 54 minutes for a second stage relight and the
Acquisition of
deployment of our
signal,
2
Newfoundland.
ride shares on board today.
Welcome back to the webcast for our 28th Starlink mission. We're currently waiting for the relight of our second stage, known as SES-2, and that'll be coming up in just under 10 seconds.
MVAC reignition. SECO 2.
Now, as a reminder, we have 2 ride shares on board today, one for Capella Space and the other for Tyvek. In just under 2 minutes, we'll have our first rideshare deployment for Capella. There we have a great view of the Starlink satellites, which we will be deploying later on. And of course, beautiful planet Earth rotating below.
Spacecraft deploy confirmed.
All right, so there we heard the call out that we had successful deployment of that synthetic aperture radar satellite for Capella Space. Next up, we'll deploy the rideshare satellite for Tyvek, and that'll take place a few seconds after the T plus 1 hour mark. Capella Space is launching a synthetic aperture radar, or